This is the tale of a famous pasture, and the talented breeder who owned it. The pasture had long been known for its champion horses, and even the local lords would occasionally visit to pick one out when the lord's son was almost of age. Father decided to present son with a horse from the pasture. The white horse chosen was the finest the pasture had ever produced. They were certain that the lord's son would be delighted. The son, however, had other ideas. He told the breeder that, in a distant land, he had seen horses that could fly.
That's the kind of horse I want,
he said. The son's announcement greatly disturbed the breeder, as he'd never heard of these flying horses. Of course, the lord's son had been lying. Spoiled rotten from the day he was born, he had developed into a nasty, spiteful young man. He had simply wanted to see the breeder's reaction. When faced an impossible request, the breeder, diligent to a fault, responded to the son's request as he did all others, by trying to make it a reality. The breeder assembled all types of animals, dissecting them carefully in order to examine their physical structures. Based on research, he created model wings of various creatures: birds, butterflies, moths, bats, dragonflies, locusts, even houseflies, and attached these to his horses in the vain hope of making the beasts fly. Unfazed by failure, he resolved instead to tear the wings off live eagles and affix them to the bodies of growing foals. After countless failures, the breeder eventually gave up. As he sank into despair, a strange white light appeared before him. It was a chalice.
I can give you what you want,
it said,
but you must give me something in return. The greater your offering, the greater your reward.
The breeder obeyed the chalice's command. He decided on the greatest offering he could make, his prized white horse. The steed dissolved into a viscous wax-like liquid, white in color. Soon afterwards, a pair of wings sprouted from the wax. If he put these wax wings onto a horse, would it be able to fly? Sure enough, the lord's son was delighted with his flying horse. The pasture's reputation grew even further. Naturally, there was a great deal of interest in the breeder's flying horses. He was selling the creatures almost as fast as he could produce them. Eventually, the wax that produced the wings ran out, but the breeder, unperturbed, simply sacrificed another white steed. One reared in anticipation of this very moment. A fresh pile of magical wax oozed onto the grass of his pasture. The breeder, plucking the wings from the wax, looked like a farmer harvesting a crop. Before long, curiosity got the better of him, and he tried attaching the wings to things other than horses. He produced flying dogs, flying sheep, even a flying house. Then one day, the breeder looked up from his work to see his pasture surrounded by the Lord's soldiers. They were to arrest him.
Why am I being arrested?
Asked the bewildered breeder.
The murder of the Lord's son,
Came the reply. It transpired that the Lord's son had become very fond of his flying horse, and hardly a day went past when they did not take to the skies together. Predictably, being able to fly had not been enough for the spoiled young man. However, he wanted to see how high he could fly. As he soared ever higher, ever closer to the sun, the horse's wings began to melt and could no longer support his weight. He plummeted to his death from a great height. The breeder was held responsible and executed. His pasture was left to go to seed. Many people have stolen the magical wax, but only the breeder knows how to use it, and the secret stays with him.